Welcome to the Indie Film Hustle Podcast, episode number 20. There's nothing creative about living within your means. Francis Ford Coppola.
Broadcasting from the back alley in Hollywood, it's the Indie Film Hustle Podcast, where we show you how to survive and thrive as an indie filmmaker in the jungles of the film biz. And here's your host, Alex Ferrari.
Welcome, guys. This is your humble host, Alex Ferrari. Don't forget to head over to freefilmbook.com. That's freefilmbook.com to download your free film audiobook. Now, guys, this episode is something I've been wanting to bring to you guys for a while. The whole concept of the camera porn, as they call it, people being so caught up with, like, I'm shooting 4K, I'm shooting 6K, I'm shooting with the Arri Alexa, this range and this aspect ratio and this size of file. And it's kind of like, I'm going to shoot with the red weapon. And because I shoot with the red weapon or shoot 6K, it's going to make my movie better. No, it doesn't. It's about story. And it's always about story. So I wanted to kind of go over a few things. Some reasons why you shouldn't, if you're an indie filmmaker, you have to understand there's a lot of things. Like whenever I shoot anything, I always shoot at a high resolution, as high as I can get, that I can handle. So, but I also have a post house. So there's a big difference. It is within my capabilities to shoot 4K or shoot 6K. I have the hard drives. I have the horsepower to push that kind of stuff. Where people get caught up or filmmakers get kind of in trouble is when they get that red epic or red weapon or God knows whatever other camera has 15K or whatever that is at the moment. And then they have no understanding of how to work through it. And I did this episode a little bit ago on post-production workflow, which is actually the most popular episode of the entire series of Indie Film Hustle. So that told me a lot that people are really, really interested in understanding this kind of stuff that I guess nobody's really talking about. So I wanted to bring to you guys the reasons why you should not shoot 4K if you're an indie filmmaker. First and foremost, nobody can really tell the difference. Even if you shoot at 4K, no one's going to be able to see the 4K unless you're at a very specific distance that you can actually appreciate 4K. But most people are not. You're not going to see the difference, honestly. And I deal with this kind of stuff all the time in my post-production company. And a lot of things are being eventually going to end up on an iPhone, an iPad, or a computer screen. So really, it's almost a waste shooting at 4K. Now, with that said, there is advantages of shooting at a higher resolution or higher aspect ratio, like a 4K or 6K. Your ability to be able to zoom in, recompose shots, things like that. Again, all wonderful things as long as you have the capabilities of handling it. Now, it will stretch your budget and take a ton more time to deal with these bigger files, these raw files, these 4K or 6K files. It's like shooting on the Blackmagic and you're shooting ProRes or you're going to shoot RAW. Well, RAW is a beast to deal with, especially the Blackmagic's RAW codec is not that great. Red is actually the best codec I've ever seen, meaning that the size of the frame, let's say the size of the image and the size of the file is like, it's very manageable in that ratio. But still, shooting at 4K, shooting at 6K or higher, it's going to stretch your budget because you're going to need more hard drives. You're going to have to copy it and back it up more and more. So it's going to also take a lot more time to transfer these larger files. And again, for what? That's the question you have to ask yourself. What is this doing for my film? Is it just ego? Am I just wanting to say, hey, I shot this at 4K? 2K is a phenomenal format for an independent filmmaker. It's wonderful. Like, that is what was being all the movies from 5 years ago and back probably were all being mastered at 2K. Most movies are still being mastered at 2K. But if you're going to transfer to film or do a DCP, 2K is perfectly fine. It is wonderful and affordable, and you can do something with it. I've actually had a theatrical movie that I worked on that we shot that was mastered in 1080p, and then we went and blew it up to 2K for a 400 screen release by a major studio, and it looked great. And we shot and we did it on DCP, and we put it onto film. And believe it or not, I was coloring. This is going back a little bit. I was coloring in Apple's Color. So it wasn't even like the highest end coloring system at the time, believe it or not. So something colored, a shot on a red, and they shot it at 4K. We were able to handle the workflow, but we edited and mastered everything at 1080p because they could not afford the mastering process to go to 4K. There was just and there was so many zoom ins and things like that it just didn't make any sense to do it. So they mastered at 2K, and then we colored in color, and then outputted it to film and to DCP. Digital cinema package, for people who don't understand that, is the digital package that movie theaters want or need in order to project digitally at any standard movie theater throughout the country. So all of that was done with a 2K master. Don't underestimate the power of 2K, please. And it's something I see so many filmmakers like. I just got a film. Guy shot a little while ago. We had a film come in through the doors that was shot on the weapon, Red's weapon. It was shot 6K, and they could barely even do anything with it. Like, they could barely move it. They were able, like, the editor who was editing it was like, "What do we do? This is too much." And again, it all goes back to workflow. And they were like, "Yeah, we're thinking of mastering at 6K." I'm like, "Are you absolutely mad? You can't master at 6K. Hell, you can't even master at 4K." Now, the other reason why you wouldn't want to master at 4K, and mastering at 4K is, in my opinion, at this point in 2015, is ludicrous. You don't need to. You can, great, fantastic, but you don't need to. And I know a lot of people are going to talk about future proofing. Oh, 4K monitors and 6K monitors coming out in the future. Great. That's wonderful. Do you know how much material, movies, media that is in the marketplace right now from the past 100 years that is not at 2K or 4K levels? Seriously, there is tons and tons of stuff. So the whole excuse of future proofing, again, if you can afford it and if you have the horsepower to do it, by all means, knock yourself out. But most independent filmmakers are not made of money, and most independent filmmakers don't have the resources to be able to push 4K in a mastering format or even in an editing process. So the other reason that you shouldn't be mastering at 4K is that distribution's not ready for 4K yet. Right now, streaming companies like Netflix, Hulu, or Amazon can only deliver between 60 and 60 megabytes per second, while 4K delivery is 6,000 megabytes per second, just so you understand. So would you rather master at 2K or 1080p and it be really tight and look good and not be super, super compressed to be able to make it work within Netflix or Hulu or your VOD format? Or would you rather master at 4K where they're going to jam so much compression on it, the movie's going to look like crap when you do get it finally out into a Netflix environment or a Hulu or Amazon or so forth? So think about it. 4K right now is not a requirement for movie distribution deals. But the good news is, believe it or not, the 35 millimeter is becoming a discussion now. Now, I come from a world where I used to work in 35 millimeter all the time. Now, people are like, "Oh, film is dead. Film is dead." It might be dead. It is a shooting format. I don't think it will be. I hope it's always around. I hope it's an option for filmmakers. It's a wonderful option. But right now, film is still the only sure way to ensure that your film will survive through time. Film will ensure that your movie will survive at least 150 years in a salt vault somewhere, as opposed to hard drives, which is 5 years old, 5 years tops for a hard drive. So you're constantly having to change your hard drive. You're also going to, as new codecs come out, new compressions come out, new everything comes out, you're going to be constantly recompressing it, re-outputting it, read this, read that, all of it. But if you master it on a film or you archive it on film and you put it in a salt mine somewhere in Utah, where all the studios have all the backlog of studio, like Warner Brothers, Disney, they all have their stuff on film, and they put it in these salt vaults, and they sit there for hundreds, for decades, and it protects them. That's how they were able to go back and, they dug up Star Wars. They dug up the original prints from Star Wars when they were doing the re-releases of it, and Jaws and all these other great movies. That's how they did it. They didn't put it on hard drives. So right now, there is a discussion going on with a lot of distributors that they want 35 millimeter prints, master prints, so they can archive it. Now, this is obviously much bigger studios, much bigger distributors, but it is a discussion as things are, people are starting to. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsor. And now back to the show. To talk about again, because it is what works. Digital is wonderful, but film is what works as far as a archiving format. So if you don't believe me that you won't see the difference between 2K and 4K, go do a test. Go to the lab, if you have a lab, and master, have them output, for, like 4 minutes, 3 minutes of some scenes. And tell them not to tell you what's what. Have them do a 1080, have them do a 2K, and have them do a 4K. And see how it works. And see what it looks like. See what ProRes looks like. See what uncompressed looks like. So just take a look at it on the screen or wherever your final output's going to be. And that's the other question, guys. You got to figure out what you're going to where's your end game on this? If it's theatrical, which is great and that's a wonderful thing, you focus on theatrical. But remember, theatrical is a very small window of how people are going to consume your media or consume your movie. It's a very small window. It's mostly going to be consumed on streaming formats, specifically now more than ever on the streaming formats, and on a lesser note, DVD and Blu-ray for as long as they'll be around with us. But it's going to be a digital streaming format, so that means it's going to be either on TV, on your monitors, on your iPhones, on your iPads, or on your computer monitor. And more people are watching movies on their iPhones, iPads, and computer monitors, and then also on their TVs as well. But the mobile devices are coming up. So you work all this hard, and I did this. I'm going to do a little quick side note. I have a buddy of mine who's a master. He does a mastering of audio mastering, and he actually has a full blown Atmos, rig, so you can do the utmost, like the most amazing surround sound, state of the art surround sound that you can get. And he has all that for a feature release theatrically, and for a 5.1 mix for your home stereo system or for your home entertainment system. And then I was there listening to the mix, and then I saw these two little crappy speakers on the top of the console, and he was like, "Well," I go, "What's that for?" He goes, "Oh, that's for when I mix this for VOD or for digital or for an iPad or for YouTube or online." I'm like, "Really?" He goes, "Yeah, because I could do all this work on this 5.1 mix, but if you crunch down that 5.1 mix or the Atmos mix down to a stereo that's going to be playing outside of an iPod or iPad or iPhone, it's going to sound like shite." So, so what he's like, I have to remix it for the worst case scenario. So he had to go back and remix it for the worst case scenario. So even audio is already dealing with this, with the whole new technology, how fast it's changing. So do that test, guys, and let me know figure it out. If you can actually see a huge difference between the 4K and the 2K, apples to apples, then my God, go to 4K. But again, it's all about your money. It's how much money you have, how many resources you have, and what kind of horsepower you have to push it. So my advice for indie filmmakers on a budget, that have small budgets anywhere from, and I'm not going to say what budget it is because I've worked on $1 million movies that didn't have the horsepower after everything was said and done because they didn't have enough money in their post budget. So it's all relative to how much money you have. If I were you, like I've always said, bring in a post-production supervisor during pre-production, or at least consult with a post-production supervisor before you start production. It's so valuable. You have no idea. If you really want to go to 4K and you really want to shoot 4K and master to 4K, or shoot 6K and master to whatever you want to master to, 4K, 2K, whatever, at least you really should have an understanding of what it's actually going to take financially between hard drives and backup hard drives and DITs on set and how fast it's going to go and all this kind of stuff. And at the end of the day, guys, it's really not about what the camera is or what kind of Ks you have on your, how many different Ks you have on your format that you're shooting on. It's always about story. We don't have a lack of cameras with 4 or 6K or high resolution cameras in the world. We have a lack of good storytellers. We have a lack of good filmmakers out there because they're so concentrated on getting the latest gear and they're not learning their craft of storytelling. So my advice is always look at the story first and then look at the gear that's going to help you tell that story and the resources that are going to help you tell that story in the best way. So I hope you guys got a lot out of this episode. It's something that's been dear to my heart for a while. I really wanted people to kind of understand, because there is a lot of confusion between all the damn Ks all over the place in the world and how big the files and all that stuff is concerned. But I hope this is some practical advice to hopefully get your guys' movies off the ground and actually get made and finished. So, of course, if anyone has any questions, I do offer consulting, post-production supervision, and post-production consulting on indie films. Just head over to indiefilmhustle.com/consulting and let me know. Also, don't forget to head over to filmfestivaltips.com. That's filmfestivaltips.com. So you can download my free ebook on how to get into film festivals for cheap or free. As always, keep that hustle going. Keep following those dreams. Keep making it happen. Talk to you guys soon.
Thanks for listening to the Indie Film Hustle podcast at indiefilmhustle.com. That's INDIEFILMHUSTLE.com.